This video is sponsored by Incogni. If you ask someone what are the capabilities of God themselves, they might say omnipotence, the capacity to be aware of and control all matter, time, and energy to their exact will. This is why when you see Messi, Tiger, or Michael Jordan do something crazy with a ball, you think, could it be? What makes the popularity of sports so interesting is that it's an incredible insight into the human psyche, which is that deep down, almost no one actually cares about getting human life to Mars or curing cancer. We only really care about doing pointless fun activities with our friends. The activity, of course, being the defeat of other people who we think are not our friends, and the imaginary devastation we experience when we are instead defeated. So let's take a look at the most popular sports to see exactly what makes them so successful. Ice hockey. Hockey is a fantastic sport because there's tons of action, lots of Canadians, and it incorporates the best part of good video game design, which is slidey ice levels. Apparently this is a hot take after looking it up, but once again as a Canadian, it sounds more like a skill issue. The only critical error in hockey is that the puck is way too fucking small to see if you're in an arena, so really you're just watching a bunch of guys skating one direction really fast, then all of a sudden turning around and skating the other direction really fast. This does, however, keep you entertained sufficiently as you wait for them to finally start punching each other. Rock climbing. Rock climbing is one of the most visceral human activities, which is not just our ape-like instinct to climb trees, but an evolved human instinct to just see what the most extreme pointless shit we can accomplish without dying. If you think about it, the moon landing was really just extreme rock climbing. If you never rock climbed before, it's easy to think it's a pretty stupid and pointless activity, but once you do it a few times, you'll realize there's a reason that the #1 most sold item in grocery stores is the humble banana. Golf. Golf is an absolute heater of a sport, and its only downside is being way too expensive and far away from where you live. A lot of people who've never played golf assume it's really just mini golf but bigger and more difficult. This is completely wrong. Hitting a ball into a hole is the meaningless part of golf. The sport is actually being able to drink and drive, and you only have to try to hit the ball into the hole so you can gamble on it. When you realize that golf isn't an upper crust gentleman's game, but just peak debauchery with the boys, then you understand why people want to get rich in the first place. Tennis. Being a 1v1 sport, I'm of course a big tennis fan, but the popularity of tennis has unfortunately been cannibalized recently by the bane of all tennis players' existence, recreational pickleball. The best way of summarizing the feud between pickleball and tennis is that pickleball players think, well, just because you have to run around all the time and hit the ball really hard doesn't mean you're better than us. And tennis players think, yes it does. The pickleball players then convert every public tennis court into pickleball courts by demanding the city council, aka themselves, do what the people want. If you know a tennis player, just be aware that they are societally down very bad and can't find a public court to play on. So make sure you reassure them that their two-handed backhand is actually very sexy, and then buy them some pen tennis balls for Christmas to cheer them up. Gymnastics. I think gymnastics is dope because it's not only a solo strength sport in the Olympics, my two favorite things, but it's one of the only sports where guys and girls compete in different activities and everyone agrees each sex is actually better at their respective events, making it the first and only sport in the world where the average male and female internet commenter is almost tricked into admitting they actually like each other. Boxing. When I watch boxing, the only thing I think is, how in the fuck is each person getting paid like $300 million for one fight? This coincidentally is what every professional fighter in the UFC is also thinking. MMA. MMA in the UFC was a great experiment because it made everyone realize what was mostly just acrobatics or performative art, and what was really made for messing people up. At this point it turns out that no one martial art does it all, and if you want to build the perfect fighter, you kinda just have to be an elite wrestler so you're built and conditioned like a Cold War lab experiment, then do jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and boxing. Then send them 2-3 years Dagestan and forget. Nevertheless, it's pretty common for both men and women to say, well, that sounds like way too much work. What should I train if I only care about self-defense? That's actually a much easier question to answer. 100-meter sprint, Glock 19. Ping pong. I think everyone can agree that table tennis is the Rubik's cubing and cup stacking of sports. It might be one of the only sports that you can watch at a high level, and without any further context you say, yeah, to be perfectly frank, I have not been diagnosed with the potential to do that. Just to be clear, I'm not making fun of anyone. This was in fact my entire childhood repertoire. Basketball. I admittedly don't know anything about basketball. I just get highlights of Jokic in my feed making crazy plays while looking incredibly unathletic and bored, then watch a related video of him with his racehorse looking really happy. That made me think that for every kid that wants to grow up to be an astronaut only to find out they're too dumb, there's also a 6'11" 100 millionaire basketball player that always wanted to be a jockey. Skiing and snowboarding. The problem with skiing and snowboarding is if you go as a kid and make a day trip, then you have to get up stupidly early and drive for 4 hours, making it a completely terrible day. Or you stay for a weekend, but there is no point in doing that because after one day you're so sore from using muscles you've never used before, you're bedbound anyway. This admittedly does change when you're an adult, because you can go to Whistler for a weekend, fall off the T-bar and break your tailbone a few times, be way too sore the next day, but now you're thankfully old enough to go to the clubs, get drunk, then get chlamydia from an Australian before coming home and filing for bankruptcy. Skateboarding. Skateboarding culture has always been cool and rebellious, and it hasn't just shaped other areas of society like fashion and street culture, but it also gives you deep psychological insights you might have not had otherwise. For example, I get annoyed when retired baby boomers with 4 properties can't figure out why they don't have grandchildren yet, until my friend Jimmy is meeting up with me so he can bankrupt Cactus Club during happy hour, and on the way over he thinks banging his skateboard into a fire hydrant is a trick. This causes me to immediately want to move my tax residence to Dubai, accept Western democracy as a failed state, and firmly lecture everyone on exactly what will and what will not be tolerated in my backyard if they want me to give them even a single penny. Baseball. To me, baseball is the EVE Online of sports, because the main highlight of baseball is whenever someone is up to bat, they announce the player's auto-generated Midwestern name, then show their stat card, which is what every baseball enthusiast and EVE Online player is waiting for so they can cross-check they have it right in their Excel spreadsheet. Cricket. While not very popular in most places, it's actually the second most popular sport in the world. This is because, like being a MAGA Republican, most of its base is in India and Bangladesh. Nevertheless, it's an awesome game to watch. Only the highlights of because it takes fucking ages. As someone who grew up in Australia and loves playing cricket but not watching it, you could unironically read the entirety of War and Peace in the same time instead. Formula 1. As a casual F1 enjoyer, I'll be making a whole video for F1. Just have to wait until Ferrari finally has a good season. NASCAR. A lot of people make fun of NASCAR for basically just being a bunch of fast cars turning left for 4 hours. This is another bad take. Imagine it was a regular Saturday and I said, "Yo dude, you want a day drink and have a barbecue?" You might say, "Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome, but is there some way to add even more stimulation to this fun weekend activity?" Suddenly NASCAR makes complete sense. Soccer, as us North Americans call it, is straight up the most popular sport in the world for a reason. Almost no downtime, lots of action, and even children in Africa or the Middle East can play without expensive equipment as they sweep for landmines. Even from a fan perspective, the constant criticism of players diving for penalties never matters that much because it's overridden by everyone's hatred of FIFA, the Call of Duty of sports games, which is only overridden by everyone's hatred of FIFA, the Venezuela of sporting organizations. American football. While American football and the Super Bowl is probably the sport most of us associate with American identity, very unlike the American identity, football is really an intellectual turn-based strategy game, where ChatGPT tells a team of data analysts who tell the coach, who tells the quarterback, who tells the team what build order to do. Then they make the play for 3 seconds, then take a break. Anyone who isn't American or Canadian might watch American football and say, "Wait, so it's called football, but the objective of the game is to hold the ball with your hands and run with it to the other side of the field?" And that's completely wrong. The objective of American football isn't to run the ball to the other side of the field. The objective of American football is to show the audience as many ads as possible. Believe it or not, in the usual broadcast time of 3 hours, there's only 11 minutes of live action and 75 minutes of commercials in a game of American football. If you're from literally any other continent besides North America, you might say, I don't get it. Why do you tolerate so many ads? But this is a very European take, because in our continent we know that commercials are the best part of the Super Bowl. As they say, you really have to experience a culture in order to understand it. While most people are not aware of it, whenever you sign up for random websites, newsletters, or accept unbaked cookies on the internet, it is the case that all of your information is going straight into the hands of people who watch baseball, and they're surreptitiously storing it in their Excel spreadsheets whether you like it or not, which is why you should try today's sponsor, Incogni. Incogni contacts data brokers that accumulate and resell your data to third parties all over the world, and request that your information is removed, which they legally are obligated to do, but hope you don't do it because, let's be honest, I don't even know how you would do that or where to find them. You can see all the requests and track progress on the site, and this is just a personal anecdote, but I used to get at least 2 or 3 spam calls a day living in Western Canada, and while it was a gradual improvement over time, now I rarely, if ever, receive any spam or robocalls at all. It's kind of lonely, actually. Additionally, with their new custom removals plan, if you find your name or information on whitepages.com or other public databases, you can submit a URL request and Incogni's team will work to get it removed on your behalf. So if you're worried about your hot crazy ex finding your name and new address by looking up your phone number, you can tell Incogni to change your address to mine instead. Just to be clear, you can't do that, but I am working on it. If you'd like to give Incogni a try, you can click the link in the description and use the code CASUALLY to get 60% off an annual plan.